tip for my fellow golfers and gamers. Do you want to book a golf trip to Vegas? For the best weather, aim for spring and fall. But the best prices, aim for summer and winter. But if you're looking for that sweet spot, try June. You get the August prices without that scorching heat. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith-Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread water, so I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength, need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC. That is King Ty Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweight.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on
Welcome to hour number 3, our third and final, live right here on this Tuesday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. Donnie Rightside hears it's his final hour on TEL. He gets excited. Solo mission, though, on the money line starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Basically, every baseball game that you have on the docket today, Donnie will give you a pick and a thought on it at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Here, though, in our final hour, we're going to preview the start of the NBA postseason. Play-in tourney action tonight, a doubleheader on this Tuesday. Our 7-8 games in the Eastern Conference. The Orlando Magic play host to the Atlanta Hawks. In the Western Conference, it's the Golden State Warriors, who dropped 2 of their final 3 games to fall into the play-in tourney. How do they respond at home tonight by the Bay, hosting the Memphis Grizzlies? A lot to get into here, DRS, in this third and final hour.
Oh, we certainly do. The topics never stop. Major League Baseball, you know, I love it. Full deck on tap today. But also, sometimes we just see some of the highlights that come down, and we're a social media show, so I'm always trying to be on the lookout. We ripped the Giants a little bit today. And then I see a report coming out here, and hear me out on this, that maybe Kevin Thibodeau, the outstanding, defensive end, young defensive end just emerging in the NFL, could be on the trading block here in the draft for the Giants. And you say, well, Donnie, that might make some sense. Why would we be doing this, Giants? Again, I hate to bring it back to the Giants. So now you're basically saying to everybody, we want Abdul Carter, so somebody trade up to 2 and steal him, and now we lose this. Couldn't this have waited till, draft night after you picked your guy and then made the move? Why would you be calling around to possibly have a guy because it's your defensive end and you might draft a defensive end, so there's too many defensive ends, and tip our hand? What is going on in the Giants building? I don't understand. And I just felt the need to, at hour number 3, take another shot at what the Giants' ineptness could be.
So as some hosts on the SportsGrid network are sharing out fake tweets, I just want to make sure who is reporting that right now, DRS?
Dove Climate per Ralph Vecchiano, who I believe is a Giants beat writer. So at least there's some meat behind that. Yeah.
Okay, there's some meat behind it, although Dove himself we don't really care for. But again, as the aggregator, at least we get to the source right there. But, Donnie, that would be interesting, right? If you are going to ship away Kayvon Thibodeau, you would almost think that if you're the Giants and now you're trying to bolster up your defense, you have 2 guys on either side with the sensational interior D lineman of Dexter Lawrence to maybe pack a punch defensively. You can figure things out offensively. I don't know, Donnie, if they're maybe trying to trade Thibodeau in the idea that they could get another early round pick. Probably not a first rounder, maybe a day 2 selection, second or third rounder to get back into the quarterback market. I don't know. That doesn't really make sense and probably should not be shared a week out from the 2025 NFL draft. But as we know, the NFL calendar is cyclical as you get things, big events on the calendar, like the National Football League draft. That's where you start to see some flurries around the league and some movements start to happen once again.
Yeah, it's just the way it is, and we know that it could be a smoke screen coming out on that, but it's just interesting, like the Giants, like, hey, we're going to go watch a guy in T-shirt and shorts to make up our mind. And by the way, we're probably going to draft a defensive end, so we better be proactive and get rid of a defensive end, which lets everybody know that they want the defensive end. So if you want that defensive end, you can trade up to 2 and steal it right from the Giants. Then they're upset because now they got to take a cornerback or a quarterback that they didn't want to take. It just all plays into rhythm. But in 9 days, we'll know what that rhythm actually is once the NFL draft takes place. And it should be fun to see that top 5 of what actually happens. Outside of number 1, that draft's going to start at number 2, and there could be some wild swings and teams trading up and down. So that will be fun to watch.
If there is NFL news to share, Donnie Rightside will not just do it to get you set for the NFL draft, but delay any conversation about the NBA postseason, which is what starts tonight on a Tuesday. Play-in tournament games. The Magic and the Hawks in Orlando. The Warriors and the Grizzlies in San Francisco. Who wins? Who becomes the 7th seed in either conference playoff standing? That is what we discuss by asking all of you and Fade the Public. I mean, Donnie, maybe it's not just you, my man. When you look at this Fade the Public poll, as I'm seeing it right now, one of our least engaged with Fade the Public polls that I can remember. Fade the Public polls solely focusing on the NBA. Don't get a ton of love. Yesterday's did for who is going to be that NBA championship best bet at the end of the regular season before the postseason begins. Only 65 votes, though, DRS, for basically a moneyline parlay of our doubleheader of games in play-in tourney action on this Tuesday. At SportsGrid on Twitter, who will win tonight's NBA play-in tournament games? Will it be the Hawks and the Grizzlies? Pulling off the upsets, the Warriors and the Hawks, the Grizzlies and the Magic, the Warriors and the Magic. It should be shared. The Dubs a 7-point home favorite, Orlando a 5-point home favorite. So both teams substantially favored. 41.5% of the 65 votes saying it will be the Dubs and the Magic making good on those numbers tonight. Although the Warriors and the Hawks, more people believing in Atlanta, not all that far behind.
No, and let's understand the premise of this poll here tonight. We are excited because the NBA playoffs are starting, but the question is, are they actually starting tonight? Because you do have the boring Magic that are going up against the Hawks, who are always in the play-in round. Not a lot of NBA fans on either side's right there. Then, as I stated to start the program, you do have a decent game, which is going to take place on the West Coast that nobody will be able to watch outside of the West Coast. Now, also, understand this, because people always say, well, you can't start the games early in the West Coast. Correct me if I'm wrong. Monday Night Football on the West Coast in San Francisco, does that start at 10 p.m. at night because the local fan base? No, it doesn't. It starts at what? 5 o'clock at night. Why isn't this game 5 o'clock at night? We bumped the Magic game up to 6 o'clock, and we're going to have 2 games that everybody can watch, and I guarantee you we'd have more than 65 votes because people are voting on stuff they're not even going to watch tonight, or should I say not voting on, Ben. How about that?
Yeah, I think it's probably not about just the timing-wise for the second game being in San Francisco. It's what the NBA does throughout the entirety of their season when there is doubleheader action. You have one game in the 7 to 7:30 window, and then you have another game starting after that, 9:30 or 10. Sorry, DRS. We'll look at the box score tomorrow morning, though, and figure out who won between the Dubs and the Grizzlies. Donnie, if you were to pick these games, just your money line parlay, are you back in the favorites? Do you think one of the underdogs can pull off the outright upset? Which way did you actually vote if you did and you did not hold out in the Fade the Public poll?
Yeah, I went Magic and Grizzlies. I think the Magic do win their game, and I think the Grizzlies can hang around. I like the Grizzlies' price point tonight, which I do think makes some sense here. With John Moran, I think he can have a decent game on the road and play within that 7, let's just say 7.5 number. Only 18.5% went that route. there's no surprise that the Magic and the Warriors, both teams favored by a decent margin, both home teams here, and theoretically both better teams, should be the lay of the land at 41.5%. But it was interesting to see the second most votes there coming in on the Hawks and the Warriors. So the Magic getting upset in this game at home. So not a lot of surprises just in the second spot here. I thought might change a little bit, but the public going public and backing the public plays, that doesn't surprise me.
Atlanta, by the way, a much better underdog this season than the previous 2 years in the A. 29 and 22 against the spread. The Hawks won their final 3 games, including outright against Orlando in their regular season finale. The Hawks needed it to make sure the Bulls did not take this spot in the 7-8 game. Orlando did not need it nearly as much. We will preview those play-in tournament games throughout this third and final hour. But up next, we're going to talk a little bit of Major League Baseball. With Donnie Rightside, he's fired up for this Tuesday full slate. Next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Let's get you set for a full Tuesday slate around Major League Baseball. We have all 30 clubs in action, 15 total games. It is Jackie Robinson Day in MLB to honor one 42? Of the greats who, of course, what? 42, yeah, indeed. To break 42? The racial barrier, of course, in Major League Baseball. Does that mean everybody's wearing 42 today on the jerseys? So. Right? Yeah,
I believe
how
so. Everybody gets the 42
works.
Out there. Yep.
Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball. Donnie, we start with the best team in the bigs to begin this year. 14-3, a perfect 11-0 at home, tied for the fourth best home winning streak to begin a Major League Baseball season in history. That would be the Padres, who have been favored, by the way, in 9 of those 11 home victories. Not the case today at Petco Park as the Padres host the Cubs for the second game of this midweek set. Shota Imanaga gets the start for the Cubbies, and thus the updated numbers, minus 152 in favor of the Cubs. Over-under stands at 8. Early on, DRS, you said we should expect some offense today in San Diego. If we see offense, who does that favor? Could San Diego's home win streak be snapped at 11?
Analytics sometimes tough to use this early in the season, particularly with pitchers. We understand that. Once you get around till June, you have enough on every one of these pitchers to make really good decisions the rest of the summer. Major League Baseball statistics on hitters, usually right about a month in, 50 to 60 to 70 at-bats, you'll be good to go and you get a good feel on these guys, whether they were hot, cold to start, it usually levels out. The reason I bring this up is you take a look at tonight in the Padres lineup tonight, going up against a lefty. Doesn't look that great. Fernando Tatis, terrible numbers against lefties. Bogarts, Gonzalez, Gurriel, Joe, and Diaz. There's only about 2 or 3 batters in that lineup that you can trust. Say, okay, how are you going to get runs out of this? And Shota Imanaga, you take a look at his first couple starts here, 23 1/3 innings pitched, a 2.7 ERA. Absolutely fantastic. Let's flip it over to the Chicago Cubs on this side, going up against Randy Vasquez. We'll get to the pitchers in just a moment here from a side-by-side. Lineup looks decent here. Against right-handed pitching, they've done very well. Tucker's been great. Bush has been great. Pete Crow Armstrong's been great. Amaya's been great. Everybody else right in that little holding pattern. But hear me out on this. You see the 7.5, and you might say, well, Donnie, give me the ERAs of both of these pitchers. Look at Vasquez, 15 2/3 innings pitched, not a lot, 1.72. We just told you Imanaga was a 2.70. Stone cold under Petco Park. Hear me out on this. And again, limited innings that are pitched. You take a look here on the options with Imanaga, 2.70 ERA. That turns into a 4.97 xFIP number, which is a disaster, which means he's getting lucky and giving up way too many fly balls, not striking out enough guys, and putting too many runners on base. Let's get to Randy Vasquez, 15 2/3 innings pitched, a stellar 1.72 ERA, but look at the xFIP number, 6.32. 2 of the worst analytical pitchers on the mound tonight based on early season statistics at Petco tonight. So again, it's very early to use these judgments, but you can see the ERA is there, which people go, oh, they're really good form, but they're getting a little bit lucky early in the season. 2 lineups I think can do some damage, and by damage, Ben, what are we talking about? 3 runs for the Padres, 3 runs over here for the Cubs, and you're right in that ballpark. You head off to extras in style at that point. I do think we get a total in this game over the 7.5 as opposed to taking a side in this one.
Analytically, DRS, as you mentioned, Shota Imanaga 2-1 this year with a sub-3 ERA at a 2.70. Only gave up 2 total earned runs in his first 3 starts of this year, including against the Padres at home in early April, just over a week and a half ago at Wrigley. He went 7 1/3. He only allowed a single earned run on 4 hits. Cubs won that game against San Diego, but in the most recent start for Imanaga against the Rangers, did allow 5 at Wrigley in 5 innings of work in multiple long balls. Total work at its way up. It was 7.5 earlier this morning. The over-under now stands at 8. DRS, your Philadelphia Phillies on a little bit of a slump right now. The Phils at home today as a minus 162 home favorite against, Justin Verlander and the San Francisco Giants. Jesus Luzardo gets the start for Philadelphia. Over-under stands at 8. The Phils won the weekend series against the Dodgers now 2 weekends ago. First team to beat LA this year. They took 2 of 3. They were 7-2. They have now dropped 5 of their last 7, including yesterday's opener against SF, who played at 10 in that 10-4 win. As you look at this game, how important is it for the Phillies to get back on track?
It's very important, but also understand this. Like yesterday, I'm like, you know what? I thought the better pitcher on the mound was on the opposite side with the Giants yesterday. In Taijuan Walker, as we said, hadn't given up an earned run after the first day. I'm like, I'm an idiot, man. These numbers are too early in the season. Only to wait just another 3 or 4 batters here, and tattooed was Taijuan Walker yesterday. And again, that 0 ERA and that xFIP in the mid-4s, that really paid attention to it yesterday because they clocked him around. Fast forward to today. You take a look at Jesus Luzardo, who's been fantastic. And the pitcher on the card today that you probably could trust the most, might be him. And Luzardo, you take a look at 18 innings pitched this season, a 150 ERA, which you said, Donnie, well, why are you looking at ERA? It's just a comparative to what that xFIP number is, which is a 2.46, which is really, really good. He should hold the ballpark here tonight, which means balls won't be flying out, high strike rates. He looks good. Flip it over to Verlander on the opposite side. Here's where sometimes your mind does play tricks on you as well. Verlander lining up in this game with an ERA of 6.92 through 13 innings. Phillies should have an easy one, but hold the horses here. A 3.74 xFIP number on him against a struggling lineup. But if I were to put my money on the team tonight, it's probably going to be the Philadelphia Phillies. Do I want to pay a minus 150 or higher? Not necessarily. But they have the better pitching matchup, and also, at least the numbers early season coming back, the Phillies have done very well against right-handed pitchers, and maybe Verlander struggling just a bit. The Phillies should bounce back, but that doesn't mean bounce back with like 7 runs on the board with an easy victory. Bounce back might be 4-2 tonight, Philadelphia Phillies.
Verlander has not recorded a decision in 3 outings this year, has a 6.92 ERA. Still a very notable name, but at 42 years old in Major League Baseball season number 20, not exactly the Justin Verlander that we know. San Francisco off to a great start this year, a 12-5 record at the moment. The Braves trying to turn things around, win number 5 last night on the road up in the Great White North, 8-4 the victory over the Blue Jays. Today, it's basically a pick'em. Spencer Schwellenbach looking to continue his sensational start to 2025 against Kevin Gausman and Toronto. Total 7.5. Donnie will give you a pick, and we'll break down a few more MLB games on this full Tuesday slate up next here on the Early Line. Who else? Who can maybe provide a test? Who can maybe be a challenger and a contender elsewhere around the Eastern Conference?
Top 2 is going to be a runaway, but I guess if I had to choose, Ben, it's going to be the Knicks. At least they have the talent to somehow upset teams that are better than them, but they can't in the regular season. Maybe it changes in the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwellenbach. Smith-Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread water, so I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength, we need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Already decided, it would appear to me, from what you're telling me, that they're satisfied with the quarterback room as it stands now.
Shedeur Sanders does not have the value to go at number 3. I know they need a quarterback. It's about this season with Russell Wilson, okay? No question he's going to be the starter. Winston will back him up. But the future they can get next year.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We continue to go all around MLB. 15 games, all 30 teams in action. A full Tuesday slate in the bigs. DRS, the Atlanta Braves, continuing and needing to stack up wins after the 0-7 start. They've won 5 of their last 9, including the opener in the 6th yesterday over the Blue Jays, 8-4. One of the bright spots for a struggling season to begin for Atlanta. Spencer Schwellenbach. He is on the bump today against the Jays with the Braves an ever so slight favorite, but basically a pick'em. What is your prediction for what we see in Toronto?
38 degrees up in the 6th tonight. Good thing they got a dome there, so that's not going to factor in. Neither will the windy conditions at about 17 to 18 miles an hour if that roof was open, but it's not. But understand this. Spencer Schwellenbach on the early season in Major League Baseball has been nothing short of fantastic. Take a look at his walk rate, 2.9%, K rate, 28%, ISO power number against 060, and a weighted on base percentage of 180, ground ball percentage 58%. Absolutely spectacular. Now let's take a look at some of those analytical numbers. 20 innings pitched so far in this early season for Schwellenbach. You look at the ERA, which again isn't an analytical number. It's just a baseline for people that say, you know what? Can you mix that analytics in with some regular numbers we understand? 0.45 ERA. How does that translate to his xFIP number? 2.46. Spectacular. Take a look at that lineup tonight for the Toronto Blue Jays and just the ISO power numbers. And you say, what's isolated power mean? Extra base hits that these guys can hit. 165, 170 is the normal average number in Major League Baseball. Against right-handed pitching to start this Major League Baseball season for Toronto, Bichette, 091, Vladdy Jr., 062, Santander, 087, Kirk, 028, Wagner, 027, Clement, 0, 048 for Nathan Lukes, Rodin, 059. The only guy positive in the middle of that lineup is Andres Jimenez at a 275 number. So you're telling me one guy is positive with ISO power number out of 9 at-bats against a kid that's absolutely cruising early season? I don't even need to see the opposite side with Gaussman. I'm not looking towards the Toronto Blue Jays, only towards the Braves for me.
Vladdy Jr. yesterday, 0 for the dish, 0 for 4. His average before that, though, at the end of the weekend was 302. But, of course, for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., after getting the stellar 14-year, $500 million contract, he still hasn't hit a home run this year. Goose egg, 0. It's Dinger Tuesday. Probably not going to happen against Spencer Schwellenbach, at least as we would think. 20 innings of work this year. 10 base knocks, 1 total earned run, a 1-0 record, a .45 ERA for Schwelly. DRS in the American League American League West, two teams have a winning record. The Texas Rangers, 9-7, your pick to win the American League pennant before the year. And who? The Angels at 9-6, the best record atop the division right now. A divisional duel today in Arlington. Tyler Mahle gets the start for the Rangers. Yusei Kikuchi on the other side for the Halos. Texas a home favorite at -120. What happens tonight in the Lone Star State?
I'm going to get some good runs in the Lone Star State tonight, and also maybe a stack is available because you just look at the Angels, and typically it's like, hey, man, they're like the White Sox. Just look at their lineup. Everybody stinks outside of one player here, but based on their performance against right-handed pitchers early in the season, everybody is really good except Tim Anderson in the 9-hole. So you have 8 straight batters with plus ISO power number and weighted on base percentage against right-handed pitching. That's where you should start to look first. Last year, Tyler Mahle, 56 batters he's faced, not a lot to look at. So fast forward to this year, he almost has as many batters faced this year than he did entirety of last year. So if you focus on this current season right now, 53 batters faced, you say, boy, look at this. An ISO power number against 065, a weighted on base percentage of 196. That's fantastic. But his K rate is low and his walk rate is a little bit high. So take a look at some of those numbers through 13 2/3 innings. Again, not a lot to work with here, but a 1.32 ERA that you might be like, boy, that's spectacular. That xFIP number, which factors everything else in, 4.51. So you're looking at the Angels that should have a pretty good night at the dish. Flip it over to the other side with Yusei Kikuchi. Not a great start so far to the season for him. A 5 ERA, but a 4.44 xFIP number, which is still elevated through 18 innings pitched. A left-handed pitcher struggling with right-handed batters. And what are you going to face most times here, Ben? Corey Seager, the middle of that lineup, a lefty. Everybody else will be right-handed batters. Why can't we get runs down in the Lone Star State tonight between these two?
8.5 is that total, DRS. A big one for Luis Castillo tonight in Cincinnati. His first start against the Reds in his career. Spent the first 5.5 years of his career in the bigs, of course, as the ace for the Reds. It's basically a pick'em tonight in a Great American Ballpark between the Mariners and the Reds. What do you like?
Yeah, interesting one is you find out because Lodolo does have really good statistics on the season. And again, he's going up against the Mariners, who tend not to hit anybody lefty or righty at this point. I don't have a great feel for this one, but also 50 degrees, which is cooler temperature. But how about 12-mile-an-hour winds blowing up the dead center field? That's at least a good thing.
The small park NBA play-in tourney next.
Yeah.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
It would bring a lot of money to the tribes, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC, that is King Kai Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweights.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NBA postseason officially begins tonight. Play-in tournament action are 7-8 matchups in both the Eastern Conference in Orlando. The Magic will host the Hawks in San Francisco. The Warriors will host the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's start DRS in Golden State. Inside the Chase Center tonight, the Dubs and the Grizz. Back in 2022, a hotly contested opening round playoff series, a Western Conference semifinals playoff series between these two teams that went the way of the Dubs. It felt like a budding rivalry, not necessarily, but back in a postseason matchup against one another. Of course, Memphis, an interim head coach, they dismissed Taylor Jenkins with just a couple of weeks remaining in the regular season. Golden State did not expect to be in this spot, having to be in the play-in tournament with about a week remaining in the NBA regular season. But when you lose two of your final three overtime on Sunday against the Clippers, and perhaps more inexplicably last week against the San Antonio Spurs at the buzzer, courtesy of former Warrior Harrison Barnes as a 17-point favorite, this is the result. 7-point spread in favor of the Dubs. A total now actually working its way back up ever so slightly to 228.5 yesterday at 227. But this is postseason basketball, DRS. What do we think happens tonight in San Francisco?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch it play out because we don't have the true, play-in game winner moves on, which they will, but I'm just saying, the loser doesn't go home, gets a second chance to try to get into the playoffs themselves. The interesting part about this is they opened up at 7.5 at FanDuel. Now it sits at 7 as a favorite for the Golden State Warriors. Most other outlets are at 7. Some are actually showing a 6.5, but the total also 231.5, slight buy down to 228.5. For me, it's just simple. I look at both of the rosters. Is Golden State's roster technically better in the starting lineup? I believe it is, but you still have enough firepower in the Memphis Grizzlies where nobody's going to be surprised if the Grizzlies actually win this game. They've shown a propensity to head into these games in the playoffs and the playing round and get big wins like these. So if I'm going to say a legitimate chance to win this game outright for the Memphis Grizzlies, well, then I'll just parlay that right into I'm going to take that 7 points here and say they can play within that number, if not win this basketball game. The total, I do lend more towards an under just because it's a playoff game, but I don't really have a feel on the 228.5 over or under at this point, but it is down from the 231.5. So I'll take the Grizzlies and I'll take the 7 points tonight.
Yeah, open at 231.5. Yesterday we saw it at 227, up ever so slightly. Memphis, one of the highest over percentage teams in the NBA. Golden State exactly even. 41 games over of the 82 in the regular season, 41 games under. Donnie, it was a very tumultuous ending of the year for the Grizzlies that included the firing of Taylor Jenkins after 6 years as the Grizz head coach. One of the reasons for that, Memphis was really struggling post All-Star break, really struggling to win games and cover numbers. Donnie, 10 games for the Grizz as an underdog, entering their regular season finale against Dallas, a game they won by 35 points outright as a 2.5 point underdog. In the 10 games prior, following the All-Star break as an underdog, the Grizzlies did not cover once. They're getting 7 points tonight.
Yeah.
You do wonder about Golden State in this play-in tournament spot. Postseason pedigree, you really back the Dubs here. Jimmy Butler understands play-in tourney positions. But the Warriors, of course, did not end the regular season with flying colors, certainly not in that last week. They get beat in OT by the Clippers to be a play-in tourney team on regular season finale Sunday. Again, the one that really cost them was losing at the buzzer to Harrison Barnes and the Spurs as a 17.5 point favorite. Where do you think that mentality is for both of our teams tonight, battling it out to be the 7th seed in the Western Conference in the Chase Center?
Yeah, I think like aspirations a little bit bigger from my end on the Golden State Warriors, specifically when they go out and get Jimmy Butler and say, okay, we're going to add you to the lineup for that playoff punch. And they were playing spectacular basketball at times, a little bit of a crumble down the stretch. So they are the better team tonight heading into it. But for my money with Memphis, I don't think house money's not fair. Like, this is a team that we anticipated over the past couple of years as John Morant to be one of the true contenders in the Western Conference, and it hasn't worked out that way, but also doing it differently. Like, Memphis used to be called the grindhouse here because they would just be like, you know what? Who wants to go down to Memphis where they're going to play great defense and it's not going to be all that fun? So more of a freewheeling scenario against a team that typically is built on defense in Golden State. The problem for me in this is trusting Golden State to win this basketball game by close to double digits. Can they do it? Absolutely. But this isn't the same team that we saw, let's just say, a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. It's like, wow, you might want to watch out for the Warriors at this point because they should not be in the play-in round and slipped into the play-in round because of lackluster play down the stretch for myself. So Memphis, for me, it's not even fair to call it upside. I just have a feeling like they should be able to go into Golden State and win this basketball game for me.
Yeah, I still think the Warriors get this done. I don't know if I'd lay 7 with Golden State. Don't really have a best bet for this matchup. I would keep an eye on Stephen Curry, though. If the Warriors are going to get it done, 28.5 points. The Grizzlies, not exactly the best defense in the NBA this year. Jimmy Butler, 22.5. DRS, on Sunday, it was 36 out of Steph. It was 30 out of Jimmy, despite the overtime loss to the LA Clippers. Brandon Podjemski, in his second year in the NBA, has been a sharp shooter for Golden State on the perimeter. On the other side for Memphis, watch out for the grenades tonight in the stands.
Yeah.
John Morant, 26.5. His points prop. Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., 21.5. Those are the two guys expected to lead the way for Memphis tonight, along with Desmond Bane.
Yeah, Bane's my guy tonight because I always like secondary options. Who are you going to focus on mostly, right? Well, it's Steph Curry for the Golden State Warriors. It's going to be John Morant for the Memphis Grizzlies. You expect them to play well. They're going to have a lot of opportunities to score points. But just go for a 5-game snapshot here on Desmond Bane, Ben. 38 against Detroit, 19 against Charlotte in a blowout win, and a loss to Minnesota, 28 points, and a loss to Denver, 24 points. I expect Desmond Bane to be over 20 points tonight. That's the way I look at this because the ability to have, three-point shot make ability. Of course, that's what he does here. I'm just trying to get some of the statistics, which aren't showing me how many three-point shots he shot in the past couple games. There we go. 3 of 8, 6 of 10, 3 of 5, and 4 and 7 in those games. And also had a little bit of an off night against Miami at 1 of 9 from three-point range. But the game before that, 4 of 10. Give me Desmond Bane tonight, man. Look, get me into the 20s and have a good chance to cover. And even if they don't cover, why can't Desmond Bane get 20 points anyway in this game?
Completely agreed, DRS. By the way, for Zach Edey, the big man, the rookie out of Purdue, of course, the 9th overall pick. He has seen an uppage in his minutes, perhaps, or at least his production, since the dismissal of Taylor Jenkins. He has played in 8 games after Jenkins was canned. He did not play on Sunday in the regular season finale. In those 8 games, DRS, he has played more than 20 minutes in 7 of the 8. In all 7 of those games, he has had at least 11 rebounds, or 6 of the 7, he has had at least 11. He has had 9 in all 7. His rebounding prop tonight, 10.5. The over has some juice. I don't think it's a bad number on Zach Edey, the 7'4" big man for Memphis. There's been a lot of conversation, of course, the shocking dismissals of Taylor Jenkins and Michael Malone in Denver. Maybe shocking to the public, not necessarily all that stunning, perhaps, for those locker rooms or the players involved. Winner of this game becomes the 7th seed in the Western Conference. They will take on the Houston Rockets. Donnie, if it is Memphis, that would be really interesting for us as some Rockets backers. If it is Golden State, the Dubs are going to be the favorite to win that series, despite having to come through the play-in tourney, despite not having home course advantage.
Yeah, I always take a look, too, when you're taking a look in the playoffs, right? Like, you want the path of least resistance. You don't want the team that's built for it and had title runs and can certainly muster down and not get flustered. That is these Warriors at that point. You take a look at the Memphis Grizzlies. Like, if they do, win this and move on, that's a big win for them confidence-wise. But I think if you're a Rockets fan or backer, or even the coaching staff, you actually would much rather take on the Memphis Grizzlies than that pride and pedigree that you're going to get from the Golden State Warriors. So I agree with that spot here. That would be a good thing for me, for Houston, if Memphis was able to move on.
The Dubs have the 3rd best price to win the West at plus 850. Memphis at 60-1, nearly $40 back of Houston right now. Of course, that incorporates a 7-point line tonight in San Fran. To Orlando, next.
Here's a tip for my fellow golfers and gamers. Do you want to book a golf trip to Vegas? For the best weather, aim for spring and fall. But the best prices, aim for summer and winter. But if you're looking for that sweet spot, try June. You get the August prices without that scorching heat. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread water, so I think that puts it in a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength, we need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC, that is King Ty Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweight.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Eastern Conference play-in tourney time, our first of 2 on this Tuesday night. We head to Orlando. It's the Magic playing host to the Atlanta Hawks. Orlando, the 8th seed, finishing the regular season 41-41 and even 500. The 7th seed, I should say, for Orlando. The other 3 teams in the Eastern Conference play-in tourney, all sub 500. But being a play-in tourney team, very, very familiar for Trae Young and his Hawks. 4th consecutive year being in the play-in tournament. And they've been astounding in the play-in tourney. 3-1 in their previous 3 trips. Their only year, DRS, not getting to the playoffs last year when they lost their only game in that 9-10 matchup. 5-point spread in favor of the Magic at home tonight. A total that was at 216.5 yesterday, on its way up to 219. That would probably favor the Hawks, who have the second highest over percentage this year at nearly 62% of their games. The Magic, second highest under percentage, more than 50% of their games. Which style wins out tonight in Orlando?
It's really interesting, too, right? Because we saw that all week long, the buybacks here from the opening numbers pounding on the unders, and now you're getting that little bit of a discount going the opposite direction. 218.5 was the opening number, got as low as 216.5, now back up to 219, and even some other outlets at 219.5 right now across the board. That's interesting. But the 5, however, has stayed there all the way through with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Open at 5, still sits at 5. Some outlets are actually as high as 5.5. For me, again, it's just a trust in the home team. And you're right about it. Styles that make fights, right? The Orlando Magic, they've been known, but look, we'll play a slugfest here. We'll grind it out. We'll play good defense. We won't get that up-tempo style when you know that's what the Atlanta Hawks want to do. They don't play great defense here. They want to get out and run. And also, outside of you taking a look at Trey's been in big environments before, Madison Square Garden cheering his name, knocking out the New York Knicks. I mean, he's had some of those, big-time fights here in the NBA. You take a look at the Orlando Magic, we're waiting for them, right? We're waiting for that playoff to say, you know what? It's a good young team here, or they're ready to make the next step. And the next step starts with playoff victories, which include the one that they're going to get tonight. So I agree at some outlets moving to 5.5 off of the 5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. I think the Orlando Magic win, but also now with that buyback going higher on the total, I'll still up to 219. I like it better, obviously, than 217 or 216.5. I think we get a win by the Magic and the game stays under because I do think, as you said, the Magic will dictate pace in this game, not the Hawks, Ben.
No doubt about it, DRS. It is correlated. Atlanta needed to win down the final week of the regular season to hold off the surging Chicago Bulls from not becoming the 8th seed, playing in the 7-8 matchup. So Atlanta did. They won their final 3, including the regular season finale against Orlando. So if you're looking at that, well, the Hawks have their number. Not necessarily. The last time these two teams played at full strength, now about a week ago. Exactly a week ago, in Paolo Banchero, a 33-point performance as the Magic won by 7, covering as a short favorite in Orlando, 119-112. Now that pace up there. But if the Magic are to win tonight, you would expect them to control tempo. For me, DRS, I think Orlando is the right side. The Magic were a few games below 500, 32-38 in the final 2.5 weeks or so of this NBA regular season. To get back to 500, to make sure they could solidify home floor advantage in a play-in tournament game, they had to win. They won 10 of their last 13. So I really do believe in this Magic side. I think Orlando wins tonight, and I think Orlando covers. Now, you have Trae Young. You have the familiarity for the Hawks in these play-in tourney spots, understanding that your season is at stake. Of course, loser of tonight's game, both here in Orlando and in San Francisco, will host the winner of the 9-10 matchup on Thursday to become the 8th seed in the playoff standings in either conference. I just think Orlando's playing better basketball in this matchup. I'm going to trust in Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner tonight to get the job done for the Magic.
Yeah, I think it makes some sense. I do. I just think they have a better team overall. Obviously, they're a higher-seeded team, and they're at home. And if you think they could win the game, you're not going to say, well, I don't think they can cover the 5 points here. It's pretty much paint by numbers at that point with the correlation. They should be able to get the job done. But it'll be interesting because the one thing we do know is, Trae Young has that propensity to say, this is a big game. I'm going to take control of this. Logo threes, 36 points, 10-plus assists at that point to just carry his team. We've seen that before, but I just don't know if the starting cast around him is as good as what I feel the Orlando Magic has. So I'm with you in this point. I think Orlando wins this game and moves on and sort of takes their game to the next level where it's all about, playoff wins and exceeding expectations, which was a good season for the Magic making the playoffs. Now we want more. We want wins to be associated with a good season, and I think that starts to happen tonight for the Magic.
That points prop looks very lofty for Paolo Banchero, the number 1 overall pick, of course, in the NBA draft back in 2022, and the rookie of the year the following season in the association in 2022-23. He is becoming one of the best scorers in all of the NBA, DRS, and 30-plus for Banchero 7 times in his final 11 games of this regular season. That's going to be a big reason that Orlando wins tonight. For Paolo Banchero, maybe not necessarily needing to get over that number, but at least getting around his season average of 26 points per game. Franz Wagner has been very, very good as well. The Magic were the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs a season ago. Didn't do much in their opening round matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now they're trying to become the 7 seed. Of course, you win tonight, a celebration, but then you get ready for a playoff series beginning on Sunday against the reigning NBA champs. That's the Boston Celtics, the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference.
By the way, did they pop bottles tonight? Cause we always get a kick out of baseball and hey, we're moving on at this point here at this. But the NBA teams though, they don't pop bottles after a series win though. You know what I mean?
Oh. You don't think the Timberwolves were popping a few bottles after they knocked off the Clippers
Pat
in a
Bev
play-in tournament a few years ago? Pat Bev jumping on the stanchion in the scorer's table? Now, come on.
He was going.
I think
Pat Bev was going.
I don't know if they pop bottles necessarily. Why not?
I'm telling you right now.
They're celebrating.
You know what I would get a kick out of? If the Golden State Warriors, who are used to championships, bust out the champagne after a play-in victory over Memphis, now that would get my attention. You know what? These guys do love this sport.
A couple of victory cigars for Draymond in the locker room. Yeah, now that would be
a podcast
something.
right
DRS,
away. Uh-huh.
Are you going to preview all 15 games on the money line
for
MLB today?
All of them, yeah. All of them.
Proud of you.
Money line. Solo mission in the space. No Blue Origin. Just me. Just me.
I like that. More of the early line up next.
Here's a tip for my fellow golfers and gamers. Do you want to book a golf trip to Vegas? For the best weather, aim for spring and fall. But the best prices, aim for summer and winter. But if you're looking for that sweet spot, try June. You get the August prices without that scorching heat. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
We know what Chris Sale can bring. I was personally high on Schwallenbach. Smith-Shawver, their other starter, looks okay to kind of bad. They need to I don't want to say tread water, so I think that puts into a bad light, but that's what they ultimately need to do. They need to tread water until Strider gets back, until Acuna gets back, and maybe it's just part of the team morale mentality that we're not at full strength, we need to kick things into gear once those guys get here.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC. That is King Ty Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweight.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
9 days away from the 2025 NFL Draft. That will be our focus as we end out this Tuesday morning live right here on the Early Line. We have been waiting all draft cycle long. It felt a little bit later in the calendar than usual this time, but we are starting to see that flood of draft markets and draft prices start to open up. It is not only fun to have some bets, to cash some wagers next Thursday night in the opening round in Green Bay for the 2025 NFL Draft, but it also is very telling what the odds makers expect to happen, and if it paints a path for the opening round, all 32 teams, all 32 selections on Thursday night. And of course, a primary focus always in football, and certainly in the NFL Draft, that is the quarterback spot. For a very long time, it felt like a two-quarterback draft class in the first round. Cam Ward, first overall to the Tennessee Titans, and then the biggest storyline perhaps of this draft, where does Shedeur Sanders land? We got the report yesterday. One final workout on Thursday afternoon in Boulder for the New York Giants. But the question after Shedeur is how many first-round quarterbacks are we going to see? Would it just be 2? Might it be 3? It couldn't be 4, right? Well, a couple of interesting things happened yesterday. We had some more draft odds open up. Top 5 pick to be a top 10 selection, to be a round 1 pick in the odds associated. Let's start with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Of course, they don't have a price. Cam Ward is a minus 20,000 favorite to go first overall to the Tennessee Titans. Shedeur Sanders is interesting. He is a minus 190 favorite to be a top 10 pick. Might the Giants go after him at number 3? I still remain hesitant. But of course, a lot of conversation about him maybe being the future in the Big Easy, the New Orleans Saints drafting 9th overall. If Shedeur is favored to be a top 10 pick and the Saints draft 9th, and New Orleans is the favorite now at a plus 125 price to select Sanders, that of course would make a lot of sense. You can put a bunch of draft markets together to kind of tell a story and a narrative of what is likely to happen. But we expect Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders to be surefire first-round picks, more than likely in the top 10. But what about everybody after that? I have shared often, I would expect the over-under for quarterbacks to be taken in the opening round of the 2025 NFL Draft at 2.5. I think the juice should be on the under. The odds makers might tell you that's a really wrong number. The over would have the juice so substantially. That number should probably be 3.5, where the under has the juice. Why? A new market that opened up to be a first-round pick. Again, Ward and Sanders don't have a price because we think they go in the top 10. But Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, and Tyler Shuck all do. In Jackson Dart, the signal color out of Ole Miss is a minus 370 favorite to be a first-round selection. Now, that is fascinating, and that would tell you that the NFL draft odds makers, from what they are hearing in a season defined by its smoke screens and its speculation, expect at least 3 quarterbacks to go in the opening round 2 weeks from Thursday. Let's look at Jackson Dart. Of course, transferred from USC to Ole Miss, played under Lane Kiffin, was the starter in the Grove the last 2 years. Put up outstanding numbers for Lane Kiffin, but I think the running Rebs fell short of expectation, did not make the college football playoff. Is Jackson Dart, in my estimation, worthy of a first-round pick? No. But, of course, quarterbacks are always going to garner some extra attention. How about the other guy there? Around an even money price, although it is a plus money number, a very known name in college football, the starting quarterback for the Crimson Tide the last 2 years in Tuscaloosa, that being Jalen Milroe. A lot of upside in 2023. In 2024, Jalen Milroe, I thought, had a down year in his first year in Kalen DeBoer's system in Tuscaloosa. What might we see out of Milroe now at the NFL level? Personally, again, I do not believe either guy is worthy of a first-round pick, especially because after the Saints at number 9, not many teams are all that quarterback needy outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But not just those prices. Dart at minus 370 to be a first-round pick, In Milroe, near an even money price at plus 135. The official 17 attendees of the 2025 NFL Draft released yesterday, and both Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe will be in Green Bay. That's significant. The early line returns tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on SportsGrid.